A pillow lies beside a motionless head instead of beneath it. The smell of ether hangs heavy in the morning air. The face has turned a dark, unnatural blue. This is how one of Africa's most powerful emperors meets his end. Not in battle, not in glory, but in the suffocating darkness of his own palace bedroom. For 3 millennia, the Solomonic dynasty had ruled Ethiopia. But on this August morning in 1975, everything changes. The Lion of Judah is dead, and the empire dies with him. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about power, betrayal, and the brutal cost of revolution. Setup, building trust. 1959. Ethiopia stands at the crossroads of the Cold War. Emperor Haile Selassie, the Lion of Judah, steps off a plane in Moscow's bitter winter. Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev welcomes him with open arms and a promise that will change everything. Over $100 million in development aid. But this is just the beginning. Months later, Selassie travels to China, sitting across from Premier Zhou Enlai, negotiating yet another alliance. The emperor is playing a dangerous game, balancing superpowers like a master chess player. He knows that Ethiopia's survival depends not on choosing sides, but on making everyone believe they need him. The strategy works brilliantly. The United States, terrified of Soviet influence spreading across Africa, pours money into Ethiopia. Selassie presents his nation as the pivotal African ally, the key to containing communism on the continent. But every move in this deadly game comes with a price that he doesn't yet understand. Tension, building the crisis. 1962. The emperor makes a decision that will haunt Ethiopia for decades. With a stroke of his pen, Selassie dissolves the Ethiopian-Eritrean Federation. Eritrea becomes Ethiopia's 14th province, stripped of its autonomy. The reaction is immediate and explosive. Guerrilla movements spring up like wildfire across the territory. The Eritrean Liberation Front emerges, determined to establish an independent Arab Islamic state. But they're not just fighting Ethiopian forces, they're fighting each other. The region plunges into a brutal civil war that will consume the empire from within. Prime Minister Aklilu Habtevold urges the emperor to place Eritrea under military rule. But Ras Asarat Kassa, the governor general, believes he knows better. He adopts a policy of benign neglect, hoping to isolate the guerrillas diplomatically. The emperor backs his governor. It's a fatal mistake that will cost countless lives. 1,966. While Eritrea burns, Selassie travels to Jamaica. The Rastafarian community celebrates him as a divine figure, the King of Kings prophesied in the Book of Revelation. Thousands gather to witness his arrival, believing they're in the presence of God himself. The emperor basks in this worship, but back home, his frequent absences are eating away at his authority. The cracks in his empire are spreading faster than he can contain them. 1970. The policy of benign neglect collapses in blood and chaos. General Teshomi Ergu, the military commander in Eritrea, launches an assault against the Liberation Front. But the guerrillas are ready. On November 21st, they ambush and kill the general, dealing a devastating blow to Ethiopian forces. Ras Asarat, feeling marginalized and defeated, retreats to London in protest. His absence at this critical moment leaves Ethiopian forces without leadership, without strategy, without hope. Selassie declares a state of emergency, but it's too little, too late. The brutal civil war that follows will rage for over 2 decades, until Eritrea finally gains independence in 1993. But while the emperor struggles with rebellion in the north, an even greater threat emerges from an unexpected direction. 1968. Richard Nixon wins the American presidency, and everything changes. For decades, the alliance between Ethiopia and the United States has been unshakable, built on the foundation of the Kagnu Station, a massive intelligence hub in Asmara, covering 14 square kilometers. This sprawling facility monitors communications across the Red Sea region, making it invaluable during the Cold War. The rent Washington pays for this base forms the bedrock of American military aid to Ethiopia. But technological advances are making the station obsolete. Satellites can now do what ground-based facilities once did. The emperor doesn't see what's coming until it's too late. 1971. The first blow lands quietly but decisively. The United States reduces its annual military assistance to Ethiopia from $12 million to $10.8 million. It seems small, but Selassie understands the message. His privileged relationship with Washington is crumbling. Between 1969 and 1973, he makes 3 desperate visits to the White House, personally appealing to President Nixon for increased military aid. The emperor, who once commanded respect from world leaders, now finds himself begging. Even one-on-one discussions with the most powerful man in the world cannot achieve his aims. August 19th, 73. The final blow arrives like a death sentence. The United States announces that Kagnu Station will cease operations by the end of 1974. Washington begins relocating its regional headquarters from Addis Ababa to Nairobi. American firms are encouraged to focus their investments in Kenya rather than Ethiopia. Selassie watches helplessly as his country slides from strategic ally to regional afterthought. But he still has one card left to play, a dangerous gamble that will backfire spectacularly. Autumn 1973. Desperate for international support, the emperor returns to Moscow. This time, there are no warm welcomes, no grand promises. The Soviets, unwilling to jeopardize their relationship with Somalia, delay granting him an audience. When Selassie finally meets with Party Secretary Leonid Brezhnev, his pleas fall on deaf ears. The emperor, who once balanced superpowers, now finds himself abandoned by all of them. But the greatest crisis isn't coming from abroad. It's brewing in his own palace, in his own family. The twist. Internal collapse. 1972. The emperor celebrates his 80th birthday, but succession remains a deadly question mark. Crown Prince Asfa Wasan, once considered the natural heir, has lost his father's backing. When he suffers a debilitating stroke in early 1973, the dynasty's future hangs by a thread. Selassie dispatches him to Europe for medical treatment, effectively removing him from the line of succession. During Easter 1974, in a desperate attempt to secure the dynasty's survival, the emperor announces that the crown prince's son, 20-year-old Prince Zara Jacob, will be the acting heir apparent. But by then it's far too late. The real power is already slipping through his fingers. 1972 to 1973. While the emperor plays politics, his people are dying. A famine of catastrophic proportions ravages the northern provinces of Tigray and Wollo. Hundreds of thousands of starving refugees stream toward the capital, seeking relief that never comes. The Ethiopian government appears paralyzed, slow to act. But here's the shocking twist that will destroy any remaining faith in the emperor's leadership. At the height of the famine in 1973, Ethiopia exports more than 200,000 tons of grain, the largest export surplus since 1967. The regime prioritizes foreign perception and economic gain over the survival of its own people. When Selassie finally visits the famine-stricken provinces to witness the devastation firsthand, 40,000 to 80,000 people in Wollo alone have already died. The damage is irreversible. The final act. January 19th, 74. Revolution begins with something as simple as a broken water pump. In the town of Negale Borena, near the Kenyan border, a water pump fails. The officers of the 4th Army Division ban their thirsty troops from drinking from the well reserved for commissioned ranks. The soldiers have had enough. They rebel, take their commanders captive, and broadcast their demands over the radio. Better pay, better treatment, basic human dignity. What starts as an isolated mutiny reveals the deeper fractures in the imperial system. The foundation of Selassie's power is cracking, and the cracks are spreading fast. February 19th, 74. The revolution spreads like wildfire. Economic pressures have reached a breaking point. The ongoing drought, coupled with an international oil crisis, sends the cost of food, petrol, and imported goods skyrocketing. Taxi drivers flood the streets in protest, followed by students and teachers. On February 25th, soldiers and officers of the 2nd Infantry Division mutiny in Eritrea, seizing control of Asmara. the imperial administration scrambles to implement reforms. Petrol prices are reduced. Soldiers' pay is increased by 20%. Controversial education reforms are shelved. But these desperate measures fail to calm the growing storm. February 27, 1974. The emperor's world collapses in a single afternoon. Selassie convenes a joint session of the Imperial Crown Council and the Ministerial Council to address the crisis. But the meeting is interrupted by devastating news. The 4th Division, Ethiopia's largest and most elite military unit, has joined the mutiny. Prime Minister Haile Selassie, unable to manage the crisis, resigns alongside his entire cabinet. In desperation, the emperor appoints General Abiy Abebe, his loyalist son-in-law, as the new prime minister. The military rejects this decision immediately. They force Selassie to name Legend Alkachu Makonnen, an experienced diplomat, as head of government instead. For the first time in his reign, the emperor's word is not final. April 1974. Whispers of a military coup echo through the streets of Addis Ababa. A leaflet appears across the city, authored by elements of the armed forces. It demands the arrest of former Prime Minister Haile Selassie and his cabinet. The message ends with an ominous threat. If demands are not met, the military will take decisive action. A specially convened military council meets with Selassie twice, pressing for arrests. Both times, the emperor resists. The military will not be deterred. They march into the Jubilee Palace and arrest Haile in the emperor's presence. Within days, the entire cabinet is detained, along with hundreds of Ethiopia's top political figures. The arrests are justified as being conducted in the name of the emperor. But Selassie's silence is deafening. He neither defends his ministers nor objects to their detention. June 1974. From the shadows emerges the Derg. The Provisional Military Administrative Council comprises members from various branches of the military, united in their disillusionment with the imperial regime. On July 1st, they make their boldest statement yet, arresting Ras Asserait Kassa, the president of the Imperial Crown Council. Prime Minister Ndalkacho Makonnen is dismissed and imprisoned. Members of the Crown Council, high-ranking palace officials, and imperial guards are arrested en masse. Emperor Haile Selassie finds himself increasingly isolated in his own palace. August 1974. The Derg steps out of the shadows. They stage a grand military parade in Addis Ababa, showcasing tanks, trucks, and troops adorned with flags bearing the slogan, Ethiopia Tikdem, Ethiopia First. Public criticism of the emperor, muted for so long, becomes a central theme in state propaganda. Selassie's name faces daily attacks in the press. He's portrayed as a symbol of corruption and misrule. His titles are systematically diminished, no longer the Negusa Nagast, King of Kings, but merely the Negus. His residence at the Jubilee Palace is seized and renamed the National Palace. Even the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, a pillar of imperial authority, withdraws its support. The emperor who once commanded respect from world leaders now faces humiliation in his own capital. The final betrayal. September 12, 1974. The end comes not with fanfare, but with quiet brutality. Members of the Derg enter the National Palace and summon Emperor Haile Selassie to the library. There, he stands stoically as they read a proclamation that destroys 3,000 years of history. His Majesty Haile Selassie I is relieved of his office with immediate effect and replaced by a provisional military government. The emperor is escorted through a side door, not the grand entrance he once used to receive world leaders, but a servant's exit. He's taken to the headquarters of the 4th Army Division, where many of his former ministers and allies are already imprisoned. That same day, the Derg dissolves parliament and suspends the constitution. Ethiopia will no longer have a Negusa Nagast. November 19th, 74. The Derg reveals its true face, and it's soaked in blood. Lieutenant General Aman Andom, known as the Desert Lion, serves as chairman of the Derg. He's seen as a moderate who might steer the country through transition. But beneath the surface, divisions are growing like a cancer. Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam, younger and more radical, champions a hardline approach. He seeks to eliminate any remnants of the old regime. On November 17th, tensions explode when Mengistu presents Amman with two demands: deploy more troops to Eritrea for an aggressive campaign, and execute imperial officials without trial. Amman, an Eritrean by birth, refuses both measures. The confrontation escalates until Mengistu places him under house arrest. But Amman won't yield without a fight. November 23rd, 1974. The night that changes everything begins with a show of hands. In the Menelik Palace, names on Mengistu's death list are read aloud to Derg members. They vote by raising their hands to decide who will face execution. What starts as a list of 6 individuals swells to 60 people by night's end. Tanks surround General Amman's residence. Over a megaphone, soldiers demand his surrender. A gunshot from within signals his refusal. The ensuing firefight ends in Amman's death, along with several followers. That same night, under cover of darkness, 60 prisoners are transported to Kirchele, the central prison in Addis Ababa. They're ushered into the courtyard and made to stand with their backs to the wall, 2 by 2. Each pair is shot dead, one after the other. Bodies are hastily buried in shallow graves, quicklime scattered over them to hasten decomposition. This bloody night forms the prelude to a period of terror such as Ethiopia has never seen. The Emperor's final months. December 1974. In the headquarters of the 4th Army Division, the Lion of Judah becomes a caged animal. Selassie spends his first weeks under interrogation by his captors. Some sessions are conducted by Colonel Mengistu himself, the man who will soon order his death. The Emperor, who once negotiated with superpowers, now faces questions from former subordinates. After weeks of interrogation, he's moved back to the Menelik Palace. But this isn't mercy. It's a different kind of prison. He's surrounded by only a handful of servants, including his loyal butler, Eshetu Techan Meram, who stays by his side day and night. The Emperor's world has shrunk to a few rooms, a few faces, and the growing certainty that his time is running out. March 21st, 1975. 5 months before Selassie's death, the military council officially abolishes the monarchy. All imperial symbols are removed from buildings, institutions, public squares, and official documents. Nothing must remain to remind people of the Solomonic dynasty and the 3,000-year-old Ethiopian Empire. For a brief time, Selassie's image still appears on banknotes and postage stamps. But even these final traces of his legacy will soon be erased. The Emperor is already a ghost in his own kingdom. The murder. August 27th, 1975. The final night begins like any other, but ends in suffocation and silence. Butler Eshetu Techan. Meram later recalls the chilling details. On the night of August 27th, 1975, I saw Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam pacing the corridor with another man near the Emperor's room. I was soon ordered to move to another room, but I was allowed to inform the Emperor of the decision. The next morning, Eshetu returns to serve breakfast. The first thing that strikes him is the overwhelming smell of ether. The Emperor lies motionless on his bed, his face turned a dark blue. The pillow is beside his head instead of under it. Everything suggests Selassie has been drugged and suffocated in his sleep. August 28, 1975. The military council announces that Emperor Haile Selassie has died after failing to recover from a prostate operation. But his longtime personal doctor, Professor Azrat Woldes, immediately disputes this version. He reveals that the surgery took place months earlier and that the Emperor had been in good health until his final days. Urgent requests from the physician to examine the body are firmly denied. The palace remains sealed, the truth buried with the Emperor. The ultimate humiliation, 1975 to 1991. In a final act of disrespect, Selassie is denied the dignity of a proper Christian burial. Colonel Mengistu orders the emperor's body hidden beneath the floorboards of a palace toilet, the ultimate humiliation for a man who claimed divine authority. For 16 years, the Lion of Judah lies in this degrading grave while Mengistu's regime terrorizes Ethiopia. The remains are only discovered and exhumed after Mengistu's fall in 1991. 2 years later, a mass grave is uncovered in the courtyard of Kersheli prison, where the 60 victims of the November 1974 execution had been buried. The scope of the Derg's brutality becomes clear. This wasn't just a revolution, it was systematic extermination. Resolution: the price of power. November 5, 2000. 25 years after his murder, Emperor Haile Selassie is finally given a dignified burial. Thousands gather to pay their respects to the man who had ruled Ethiopia for nearly half a century. But the ceremony raises more questions than it answers. How did a leader who once commanded respect from world superpowers end up suffocated in his own bedroom? The answer lies in the deadly mathematics of power. Selassie's diplomatic brilliance, his ability to play superpowers against each other, ultimately couldn't save him from the contradictions within his own empire. His frequent travels, meant to secure Ethiopia's future, weakened his authority at home. His decision to annex Eritrea, aimed at strengthening the empire, sparked a civil war that consumed it from within. His neglect of domestic problems while pursuing international prestige created the conditions for his own downfall. The final truth. The Lion of Judah fell not to foreign enemies, but to the very forces he had failed to address within his own borders. His death marks the end of one of Africa's longest-running dynasties and the beginning of one of its bloodiest periods. Under Mengistu's rule, hundreds of thousands more will die in purges, famines, and wars. The emperor's murder becomes a symbol of how quickly absolute power can turn to absolute vulnerability. In the end, the man who claimed to be the chosen of God discovers that even divine authority cannot survive the wrath of hungry, desperate people. Today, Haile Selassie's legacy remains as complex as the man himself. Revered by some as a Pan-African icon, condemned by others as a dictator who cared more about his international image than his people's survival. But one truth emerges clearly from the blood-soaked corridors of the Menelik Palace. In the game of power, there are no permanent winners, only those who fall slower than others. The Lion of Judah learned this lesson in the suffocating darkness of his final night, when a pillow became his executioner and ether filled his lungs instead of the sweet air of absolute power. His empire died with him, and Ethiopia would never be the same again.